Hey, what's up everyone? Alex here. So, it's September, and at first, I thought this month was going to be packed with ports and remasters, much like in other months. But unlike those other months where that was indeed the case, there's actually a lot of really highly anticipated games that are coming out in September, and that really surprised the heck out of me. So much so that I actually have a lot more games that I want to talk about that I want to highlight in this video, because I usually highlight a lot of select games in the beginning of this video, and then I talk about the rest of the games that are coming out. And there's a lot to highlight, let me tell you. Let me highlight some select games that you're going to be playing in September. The first game that I want to talk about is Flowstone Saga, who's sponsoring this video. I got a chance to play this game early, and this game combines Tetris-like puzzles with, wait for it, RPGs. Now, before you make any assumptions, I'm not talking about those other puzzle games that make you 1v1 enemies. During combat, quote-unquote, you'll get to choose the target you want to hit, and every time you clear a line, you'll inflict damage on them. Now, I will say that I'm so used to playing Tetris that I was actually caught off guard when the game asked me to do different things that the aforementioned game doesn't ask you to do, like copy a specific pattern using the pieces they gave me, or clear blocks sooner than later, or else Mirai, our heroine, will get damaged. There's interrupts, heals, strategy, and a ton of other considerations that make this a true RPG. And I barely scratched the surface too, because there's jobs, abilities, and powers that can change the pieces you get, and the board size, combo attacks, as well as equipment. And best of all, no grinding is required. It's like an action RPG, but you fight with puzzles. So head on over to the link in the description of this video to check out the demo for Flowstone Saga on Steam. Flowstone Saga is coming out on September 17th on PC. So, REYNATIS to me is one of those games that flies under the radar, but when you take a look at it closely, the fact that they are collabing with the Neo, The World's End With You, and its creators is something noteworthy. In case you haven't heard, this game is set in a realistic depiction of modern-day Shibuya, which tries to blend fantasy and reality. The story revolves around two main characters, Marin Kirizumi and Sari Nishijima, who have conflicting ideals about the use of magic. And this game is action-packed with unique mechanics like a liberation mode and suppression mode. And the soundtrack is actually being composed by Yoko Shimomura. And the scenario writer is Kazushige Nojima, who of course is known for writing the scripts for Final Fantasy VII, the remake, Rebirth, and Final Fantasy X. So there's a lot to be excited about with REYNATIS. There's so many names attached to this title that I'm really curious how this all blends together. And modern Shibuya is always an interesting setting for me, so I can't wait to see how that setting, combined with the characters from Neo The World Ends With You, combine and lift up REYNATIS as a game. REYNATIS is coming out on September 27th on PlayStation platforms, Switch, and PC. I've actually been playing the Ace Attorney Investigations collection since mid-July, but because there were so many games that came out over the past few months, I've only gotten a little bit of progress on the first game. But hey, you know what? I am a huge fan of point-and-click adventure games and Ace Attorney, and I've never actually played the original when it first came out, and when I heard that this collection is going to also have the never-before-released in the West Part 2 of the game, I just told myself, you know, I need to play this. This is going to be really good. And the fact that they actually took great care with not just creating the graphics for this collection, which really honors the original sprite art of the game, and tied that with some incredible localization that the Ace Attorney games have always had over the past several years. And you've got something that can serve as a fantastic break from the usual grind of JRPGs or RPGs that you've probably been involved with ever since the start of the year. And if you're not that kind of person who likes figuring out puzzles and whatnot, there is a story mode for this game that helps move things along a bit faster. And it's Ace Attorney. Who doesn't like Ace Attorney? Ace Attorney Investigations Collection is coming out on September 6th on all modern platforms. So there was a time that I was really addicted to Factorio, and if you've never played that game, that is a factory sim that has like city building elements and survival elements. And so because I was so addicted to that game, Satisfactory came out that promised to be the first 3D factory sim out there. And it's been like 4 or 5 years now, ever since early access, and it's actually coming out with a 1.0 release on September 10th on PC. Now, I actually spent a huge amount of time playing this game with my wife, to the point that we actually did the Christmas event that happened, I think it was like this past year or 2 years ago or whatnot. But what's really cool about these games is that you could build things and try to streamline things to the best of your ability and make it so crazy and so unique that it's such a fascinating thing to like watch this whole thing come to life. Of course, you have to make sure that you have all the resources handled and yada yada yada, but it's so much fun playing with somebody else that I highly recommend this if you're trying to find like a co-op game to play with someone else and also create things in a streamlined fashion. And that, I think, is the beauty of these kinds of games, is essentially making sure that everything is streamlined to the best of your ability. Again, Satisfactory is coming out of early access September 10th on PC. Astro Bot has been in so many things, right? Like there's a PSVR game, there's even like a tech demo that comes with a PS5 that you can play around with that has him in it. And Astro Bot, just Astro Bot, which is coming out on September 6th for the PS5, is basically, I guess, something that so many of us have just been wanting, which is like a classic 3D platformer that's not VR, that's actually a full price game, and here we are in all its glory. Now, I can see how Astro Bot, at first glance, some people might say that it's like some sort of like marketing campaign for PlayStation, given that it not only features different PlayStation franchises, but I think, to me, the way that I see it is it's like a love letter for all the PlayStation fans who have just stuck around since the PS1 era, myself included. It's a way to poke fun at all of these things that we've known PlayStation to do, and I think it's also nice to see this as a celebration of how far we've come in video games in general. And what's great about Astro Bot is that it's going to expand upon a lot of the quote-unquote tech demo features that they showed in the original Astro Bot demo that came out with the PS5. And I can't wait to see how that actually turns out, because I feel like a lot of games that have come out on the PlayStation 5 these days don't really take advantage of all of the unique features that the DualSense controller has. And so if there's any one game that's going to demonstrate how great it is to actually play around with all of the features of the PS5 controller, I think it's going to be Astro Bot. Astro Bot is coming out on September 6th on PS5. I'm a huge fan of Punch Club, so when the developers of said game, who, by the way, also made this year's Vandal Tale: A League of Legends Story and the critically acclaimed Graveyard Keeper, that they wanted to make like a narrative-driven JRPG that blends turn-based combat, monster taming, and social RPG elements in a 1960s Americana, well, I paid attention because I love this developer. Bloomtown: A Different Story is certainly different, and it combines all of these elements into a single game that feels very feature-rich with a fantastic art style that really made me fall in love with it, while introducing narrative concepts that feel vaguely familiar. Like, we're talking like very Earthbound-esque here. And because its developers have made so many fantastic games of this ilk, and combining their entire experience and putting it into this one game, I honestly say that I cannot wait to check out this game. It's looking really, really good, and I can't wait to get my hands on its turn-based combat and how everything is just going to work out. Bloomtown: A Different Story is coming out on September 24th on all modern platforms. Marvel vs. Capcom. Whenever I hear those words, I am immediately brought back to an era of Capcom when they released X-Men Children of the Atom, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Street Fighter, Marvel superheroes, I can name all of these games. So when Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics was announced, which is an insane collection of Marvel titles, I practically almost lost my mind like Maximilian Dude did. And thankfully, I don't have to go crazy on camera like he did, which is actually very endearing.
New Age of Heroes.
And again, when I first heard that all of these games are coming out in a collection, of course, sans Marvel vs. Capcom 3, because people are still playing that game separately, I just thought to myself, wow, like, this is so cool that a new generation of people will get to play all of these games. Like, to be honest, like, before Marvel vs. Capcom came out, Marvel Superheroes was literally one of my favorite games in that style of gameplay. And the fact that everyone will be able to play that game is nothing short of beautiful to me. Of course, my butt is probably going to get kicked when I jump online and play these games, but I don't care. We have this awesome collection, which actually includes the Punisher for some reason. It's not even like a fighting game, but here we are. We got like these amazing games, and you know, like, wow, like, when was the last time I was able to play Rogue, like, in a fighting game? It's been a long time, so, and I think, like, she is in X-Men vs. Street Fighter. Anyways, I am going off of flawed memory here, but if you can't tell, I'm really excited for this series, and I hope you check them out if you're a huge, huge fighting game fan. Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics is coming out on September 12th on PS4, Switch, and PC. So the first time I saw The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, there was this image in my brain that started painting this picture of the Zelda team learning a lot from making Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and taking all of those unique features and ideas and packaging them into something more familiar. And of course, Echoes of Wisdom demonstrated that immensely. The freedom of expression that you got with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is unparalleled. But the fact that in Echoes of Wisdom, you're able to do like crazy things like use beds as platforms or not fight with a sword, even though of course they revealed that the sword is actually back, I was immediately enamored by the sheer willingness to experiment in this form without Link, I guess. I mean, technically Link is there, but we're playing as Zelda in this game, and that to me alone is really super exciting. And I knew that this was going to happen. I knew they were going to make like a classic Zelda game using the engine that they used for another game, because that's what developers do. They try to be comfortable with the engine that they're working, and eventually they're going to work on something that is really original. And from what I've seen of Echoes of Wisdom, I am so excited to try and play this game and to see what kind of shenanigans I can get up to and the kinds of rule sets that's going to introduce that's different from Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, that works uniquely in this style of gameplay. And if you can't tell, I'm really excited for this. Like, I am a huge Zelda fan, so this is definitely right up my alley. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is coming out on September 26th on Switch. I love Final Fantasy XVI. Yes, some people trashed it because it's not turn-based or it's too easy, what have you. But with the game coming out on September 17th on PC, that just kind of immediately made me think of all of the great mods that people can make for this game. And before I get into that, I want to talk about how crazy dark this game is and how much fun the action combat is. Like, I love the bombastic nature of its character action-inspired combat, some light RPG elements, you'd argue, and the big kaiju-style battles that the game absolutely embraces, top to bottom. And you got this really amazing adventure that is unlike any Final Fantasy that have come before. I love the fact that this Final Fantasy fully embraces action combat and not putts around and kind of do this halfway thing of action and halfway thing of like turn-based or whatever it is. Because it really is trying to appease people who are action game fans. Now, I'm not normally a mod guy, but I cannot wait for mods that will potentially increase the difficulty of this game. And of course, the videos that are going to come out from that. Because you know that's going to come out. Because one of the biggest gripes people had is that Final Fantasy XVI was pretty dang easy. So I'm pretty sure a lot of modders are like really excited to take this challenge on so they can actually make this version of Final Fantasy XVI the version that people are looking forward to playing. And to be quite honest, just the thought of that just makes me really excited for this PC release. And I honestly can't wait for modders to get their hands on this and make this a reality. Final Fantasy XVI is coming out on September 17th on PC, and it's already out on PS5. And here are the rest of the games coming out in September. Bakeru, a wild action game, is coming out on September 3rd on Switch and PC. Age of Mythology Retold is a remake of the popular RTS game featuring new visuals and balancing, and it's coming out on September 4th on Xbox platforms and PC. Yars Rising, a modern take on the classic Atari game, now in a beautiful action-adventure format, is coming out on September 10th on all modern platforms. Mirthwood, an enchanting life sim RPG that borrows a lot of elements from games like Fable, is coming out on September 11th on PC. Grapple Dogs Cosmic Canines, a platformer that reminds me a lot of Bionic Commando, is coming out on September 12th on Series X and S, Switch, and PC. Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, a remaster of the kitschy action game where you get to be a cheerleader decimating zombies, is coming out on September 12th on all modern platforms. The Plucky Squire is an action-adventure game that tries to blur the line between storybook and reality, and is coming out on September 17th on PS5, Series X and S, Switch, and PC. Keylocker, a cyberpunk-themed turn-based rhythm JRPG, is coming out on September 18th on PS5, Series X and S, Switch, and PC. Enotria, The Last Song, is a Souls-like set in a beautiful and vibrant world, and it's coming out on September 19th on PS5, Series X and S, and PC. Frostpunk 2, which has been around these lists for a while this year, is an apocalyptic city-building survival game of sorts, and is allegedly coming out on September 20th on PC. We'll see if it makes this release date. Disney Epic Mickey Rebrushed is a remaster of the popular 3D platformer that was exclusive to the Wii, and it's coming out on September 24th on all modern platforms. The early access for Greedfall 2 The Dying World, and I gotta say, one of my favorite Western RPGs, is going live on September 24th on PC. God of War Ragnarok, the sequel to one of my favorite character action games of all time, is coming out on September 19th on PC. The PS4 and Xbox One ports of Star Wars Jedi Survivor are coming out on September 17th. Just a To the Moon series beach episode is exactly what it sounds like, and it's coming out on September 20th on PC. Beyond Galaxyland, an intergalactic themed adventure that combines point-and-click adventure with RPG, is coming out on September 24th on all modern platforms. Earth Defense Force World Brothers 2, the sequel to the voxel-based spin-off from Earth Defense Force, is coming out on September 26th on PlayStation platforms and Switch. And those, my friends, are some of the noteworthy games coming out in September. If there are any games that are confirmed to be coming out in September that I somehow missed here and something that you're looking forward to, share the love and talk about them in the comments below. And if you saw a game that you've never heard of before, or any games that you're excited about, post them in the comments below and let's talk about it. Also, did you miss this week's Nintendo Direct? There are 5 JRPGs that you need to know about, 4 of which were new announcements that I talked about in a recent video. And do you remember Clair Obscur Expedition 33? I recently talked about its JRPG inspirations and how it's taking up the legacy of Lost Odyssey and turn-based Final Fantasies. as well as talk about its turn-based combat, and one other thing that concerned me. You can find them all right here, so go check them out. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.